This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to PTBN's NBA Team Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Andrew Riche. I am joined by Adam Murray. Adam, how you doing? Been a couple of weeks, All-Star break passed.
Yep, we are done with the All-Star Weekend and the usual criticism of All-Star Weekend. And now we're back to sort of the real season where we have a good 25 to 30 games left, depending upon which team. And this is where the real season sort of starts, right?
It does, yeah. We had our own DNP during the All-Star break. I'm gonna be honest, Adam, and I don't think the new format, which I would say I'll let you chime in a second one. I felt like generally it was panned. A lot of people didn't like it, where you have the different teams from represented by the TNT crew, and they go to 40 and blah blah blah. Steph Curry won the MVP of that thing, but even before that, when they were just going into the high 100s, and one game they went to the 200s, like I kind of tuned out on All-Star Weekend. All-Star Weekend can have its pizzazz. Mac McClung was awesome in his dunk contest, but overall, Adam, I just tune out. And let me tell you, I'm the most dialed-in NBA fan you'll ever find, and the All-Star game just doesn't matter to me. Like, is the same with you?
That's what you ask me this, like almost every, I think you finally gave up around season 8 or something. You're like, did you watch, what do you think about NBA All-Star Weekend? Like, I don't watch it. It doesn't entertain me. Like I'll watch, I'll catch the dunk contest and the 3-point, but the game itself this year, it was obviously terrible just because there was very little basketball played, and it was just a big 3-hour commercial for trying to fit small amounts. But
I was surprised they canceled the Ionescu Curry shootout. I don't know why, because let me tell you, like if you look at the popularity of the women's sports, like Livy Dunn and Angel Reese and all, Caitlin Clark with Unrivaled. I know she's not in the Unrivaled 3-on-3 thing, but the ratings have been solid. Like, wouldn't you want the star female talent involved in your All-Star Weekend? I don't get that.
well, somebody pulled out of it. But anywho, it's long gone.
It
It's
is.
long over. We don't, all the other, thankfully, we didn't even need to cover it, so we can move on.org, right?
Yeah, it was in Golden State. And they're just one of those teams that are going through their own changes after the trade deadline with Jimmy Butler. I saw them play the Kings, who also have a change of scenery with DeRozan and Levine. So the Sacramento Bulls, as I like to call them right now. And the Warriors just absolutely blew them out. So I think the Warriors defense is starting to dial in. Butler looks like he actually wants to play again, which is a good sign. And that's just one anecdote to some of the things we've seen in the All-Star break. It's been a week. They started again on Thursday. Funnily enough, they had only one game on Wednesday, and that was because it was postponed by the wildfires, and that was the Lakers and the Hornets. The Lakers lose at home to the Hornets, who are awful. Like, they have injuries, their offense is terrible. But then they turn around and they blow out the Nuggets at home, who had won 9 games in a row. So I think it's just apropos of like a team that's really star driven with LeBron and Luka, and they're trying to figure out what they are. At their best, they look amazing. At their worst, they could lose to literally the Charlotte Hornets,
I don't think anybody can lose to the Charlotte Hornets.
They lost to the Hornets, Adam. I saw it with my own 2 eyes.
I mean, that was the first game. That was the makeup game, which they didn't. Obviously, if you have those 2 games, which one are you going to try for? Are you going to try for the Charlotte one? Are you going to try for the? Of course, you're going to put all your effort into the Denver one and not try it. But
right.
Nevertheless, continue.
Just some other interesting. Kevin Durant. He becomes the 8th player to get the 3,000 career points. Incredible accomplishment, incredible career, obviously. The Suns worry me, though. I'm going to give you my hot take, and we can just go from here. I don't think the Suns are going to make the play-in. I think the Kings are going to hang on.
That's not even a hot take.
I don't know, man.
The Kings are just
The Kings are on the
You
ropes
know,
too. But I think DeRozan being a clutch player and him getting a lot of touches. I don't know if you noticed, but DeRozan's number has been way up since Fox got traded. I think they're just going to try to hang in there, and the Suns are just going to dip. The Suns are 27th in defensive efficiency. Like their defense is falling apart, Adam.
the Suns are a complete mess, and it's funny how many, if we could just go and just check the betting stubs of those who had a 76ers Suns finals,
Mm-hmm.
because both those teams are just dumpster fires. Like,
Joel Embiid's not healthy. Okay, I could just I know he's playing games. He just played one the other night. He's not healthy.
yeah,
Okay.
and he looked terrible, and he got yanked halfway through it because he just looks completely injured. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it would take for them to say, okay, we need to shut this down. And Paul George hasn't been really himself in Philly yet. But
Let me laugh about this one. This man says, my knee's really in pain. Yet you're hanging out with your girlfriend on the beach on All-Star Weekend on Instagram.
what is he supposed to do? Sit and
He needs to practice harder, Adam. No. But if he wants to hang out with his girlfriend, that's cool. But, I mean, a lot of people are calling him Podcast P because that's literally all he does now. He does more podcasting than he does play games.
But going back to Phoenix, if you remember, the coach was the problem. The team was right there. And this complete, like, yeah, I admit it. I believe I was sucked into it too. I'm like, okay, this one, they know they're desperate. They know this is their last chance. They're going to go all out. And they did for like a month. And then they gave up. And it's been kind of very ugly.
Budenholzer is a system coach. He's good at it. Like once he gets the team, his players on whatever team, Atlanta, Milwaukee, now Phoenix, when he gets them to buy in, this is the plan. This is what we're going to stick to. He's actually really effective at it. Like remember when Beal first got put to the bench, it worked really well. Like they were winning games.
No, it's not working well because you have Ryan Dunn who was starting, and all of a sudden now he gets DNPs.
I get that. What I'm saying is that Beal was playing better. Beal individually was playing better.
You have that. You had we're going to trade Durant. Durant's like, what? And this, I've just the complete flat fall on their face is just astonishing to watch, of just how everything has and they've been for the most part healthy. There's been no season-ending injuries. It's just we're kind of like, yeah, Bradley Beal doesn't make your team better, and you couldn't make a trade because he didn't want to be moved, and it's you have no draft capital, and you kept trying to go all in, and it's just
you are
really
well past
ugly.
You're well past the second apron, so you can't. I mean, there weren't going to be and they weren't going to be potential for buyout guys anyways, and they couldn't use the mid-level exception. Like you're at a point now where I mean we're telegraphing really far ahead, but you're at a point now where Durant it really is that jaded about the whole I might get dumped type of thing. He's probably going to ask to be traded in the summer, and the Suns, because of the fact that they're so far over the tax, they might be in a situation where they're going to get multiple teams involved, where Durant gets traded to a different destination on the last year of his contract, and they get almost nothing in return other than draft picks. So the Suns are in a real pickle. The other team that's kind of in that vicinity is the Spurs. They got an absolute gut punch where they, Victor Wembenyama looked a little out of it in a game. They check him out. He has blood clots in his shoulder area. So, and that's kind of similar to the one that Chris Bosh had that ended his career. And then there was a couple others that had a similar injury and they bounced back. So it might not be career threatening, but they shut him down for the season for the out of caution. So that might do in the Spurs. Like De'Aaron Fox is there and he's going to get a lot of points, but I don't know if they can really muster enough to get to that last spot in the play.
Well, that team is dangerously. They don't have their very small team without him, anyways. And if Wembenyama sits, they you got rid of Zach Collins, so it's just I don't even know who they're
rotating. They're doing the thing again where they're rotating Keldon Johnson off the bench with Vassell and Fox. It's gonna be tough. Also, and it's not surprising. It was announced that Greg Popovich will not come back for the rest of the season, and there is a good likelihood he might retire.
He's probably done. Like if you have a stroke and you're not back relatively soon, he's still
Serious.
sort of disappeared. Yeah, it was a real bad one, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a shame. Wembenyama, the first thing I texted you, I'm like, oh, that's not good for him because, look at the best case probably was Oscar Thompson, who
He's playing.
but
Yep.
he was off for
About 4 months.
yeah, it hurt his development a bit. And then worst case scenario is Chris Bosh, who it did him in. So it's just yes, it does the Spurs in, but the Spurs weren't really in a position to want to go all in and then start this process that was always, well, we'll take a year off. You knew they're going to start slowly going backwards, but this sort of accelerates that process.
This is the era of all in. Like, this is the time period where it's like, okay, it's nut cutting time. Do you really want, like you were talking about after the All-Star, do you really want to go somewhere or not? Do you want to just go to fucking Cancun, or do you want to make something of this season? This is the time frame. Even teams like the Bulls, who I cannot stand watching, they're 13 games under 500, but we have to look at the numbers, Adam. They're still in the play-in, and they might stay in there if they just hang in there. I have to give credit to the Brooklyn Nets because that team has very little talent, and they're playing their ass off on defense and somehow winning games. They might scratch their way into that play-in. I don't think it's that important at the end, because I think that 10-spot team in the East in the play-in is going to get thrashed by the Hawks or the Heat or whatever. But I got to give credit to the Brooklyn Nets, and for the Chicago Bulls, I give them no flowers because they should have been better than that anyways.
Chicago, which we'll get into this shortly, but the roster is completely terrible. The fact, the GM, I can't, I imagine the first day after the season ends, he'll be gone because you make all these trades. Was like, well, you sold everything way too late. You got no return on any of these people. All your trades were pretty bad.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I like our roster. And then you have the coach going, yeah, we got all these guys. We haven't been told to play them. We haven't been told not to play them. So I don't know what to do with them. It's just like, what were you?
You want to hear something sad? The Bulls have lost 6 in a row as we talk. The Sixers have lost 7 in a row. And these are two of the teams trying to vie for that.
Yeah,
spot.
no, it's
sad.
It's quite sad.
And the Orlando Magic, people are like, what's wrong with the Magic? Number one, in the beginning of the season, they were without their 2 best players for a good majority of the first half of the season. Now that they're back, what's wrong? I can tell you what's wrong. They have no offense. They're second to last in the league in offense. The only team whose offense is worse than theirs is the god-awful, probably going to get Cooper flag Washington Wizards. That's why. Their defense is fantastic, but you got to score points. You got to score over 100 points.
All right, so let's move on. And you want to take a look in on the over-unders?
Yeah, and we can kind of survey the rest of the league as we talk about it for sure.
All right, so first, you're aging like fine milk pick of Brooklyn is not going to win like 10 games, you said? 11 games?
I thought they were the first team in the league. That's what I predicted in this before the season started, and I was completely wrong. They coached their ass. Jordi Fernandez really did a great job with that team. Remember too, and I don't think anyone even notices because the Nets are not must-see TV. Cam Thomas has been out for most of the season with a hamstring, and they're somehow winning these games.
Yeah, they're a feisty team, and it's been refreshing to watch considering, of the early slate, you have, the Wizards games and the Hornets games. You're just like, and the Raptors game, you're like, oh, I don't want to.
Watchable. Yeah, I was about to say that the Raptors are kind of unwatchable.
The Raptors just make no sense. And here's the, well, we'll just say Detroit, Portland, and Brooklyn have all beat their win totals of their over and unders. Portland, nobody can explain this run they're having.
I'll say this. Here's an example of their turnaround. I guess you could kind of call semi turnaround. They remember this. We talked about this a few months ago. They had a game at home against the Jazz, and the Jazz are terrible. They lost by 50 to the Jazz at home, and we were saying, man, Chauncey Billups might get fired first. They just had a game now where they played, an equally bad Hornets team. They beat them by 50 at home. So clearly, like, they have confidence in themselves. Are they going to make the play-in? No way. There's no way to catch up. But they seem to have the semblance of a team.
I wouldn't say there's no way to catch up because they're only 5 games out of the play-in spot right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm putting a lot of unrational confidence into irrational confidence into the Kings and the Suns. Like, I think they're going to try to stay at the 500 realm. And I
Oh, of
don't think
course. And then, mysterious ticky-tack injuries will come in when it gets closer and whatnot.
Right.
But of the bad teams, Brooklyn, Washington, Portland, Detroit, Charlotte, Toronto, and Utah, we had from our dumpster fire group. Toronto, they have to go 13-4. This is obviously after the All-Star break was when they were tallied. They have to go 13-14. They got to play sort of 500 ball. Do you think they could do it?
No, and I know teams start tanking, or as I always like to use this phrase, playoff teams who tank late, planking. But I don't think Toronto can pick up that many wins in a row. Barrett's healthy and he's playing well. Scotty Barnes is Scotty Barnes, but Pirtle's out with some mysterious bullshit injury, and Ingram. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Ingram's gonna play a minute this year. So I just think we're not gonna see 500 ball out of the Raptors.
Okay, other sort of will they or won't they's we'll go over because we don't need to go through every team of how we're doing. Golden State needs to go 17-9.
Yes, it's very close. I think they'll do it, actually.
Miami needs to go 20-10. Can they turn it around?
No, not 20-10. I can't see him at 750. Like, I can't see him playing that well down the stretch. Without Butler, with Tyler Hero and Bam, and there was another player who's actually played pretty well for them in the absence of Butler. I want to say it may have been Khalil Ware, but I just don't see it. Like, their defense is good. Their offense is kind of going down the tubes. I think they'll make the play-in, but I don't see them playing that well down the stretch.
Memphis needs to go 12-16.
They are in a dogfight with the Rockets for that 2-3 spot, I want to say. Like, it is close. Denver's in there too. Denver's hiding is up there too.
Denver needs to go 17-10. I think that's quite easily done for them.
They can pull that off, especially if Jokic tries to make that last push because he wants to win another MVP kind of thing. Also Jamal Murray playing great. He had he had one of those. Jamal Murray reminds me of Kyrie Irving, where like he bothers. Like, Kyrie Irving is not a guy who like has awful games all the time. He's just a malcontent and a pain in the ass, and then he'll play this incredible game. Jamal Murray on the court, he'll do the dumbest things and he'll have a terrible game, and then he'll turn around and have a game like he had, I think, against the Hornets, where he just goes for 55, and you're like, Jesus, like, who can stop this guy? So the Nuggets supporting cast is starting to really round themselves out. They did get blown out by the Lakers though, but that's because Luka finally had his first great game as a Laker.
And 2 teams that kind of need to win a ton still. Milwaukee needs to go 21-8, and Boston needs to go 20-7.
So Bobby Portis got suspended for I'm a pharmacy technician, so I know the difference here. Okay, I can be an expert. There's a lot of athletes take an anti-inflammatory called Toradol. That's the brand name. The generic is called Ketorolac. It's a normal shot to get rid of pain. It's a painkiller, but it's legal. You can use it and not get a drug suspension. He wound up taking a different version, a pill version called Tramadol, but that's actually an opiate. So I can actually understand. This is not one of those Ryan Braun, I'm making shit up for taking steroids thing. I legitimately think he got prescribed something that he didn't realize was an opiate, but he got tested hot for it and he got a 25-game suspension. So that sucks for the Bucks because they need everybody. I would say, what's the number 50 and how well did they have to do?
We got to do 21-8.
No. I think their defense is playing better. Lillard has to start shooting, but Lillard is shooting horribly since the All-Star break.
And then Boston needs to go 20-7. Are
yes.
they gonna?
Yeah.
Okay, they're gonna.
Now, are they gonna catch Cleveland? No, I don't see it. There's 4 games behind, maybe. I don't see it. I just saw Cleveland absolutely wipe the floor with the Knicks, like destroy them. Jared Allen hurt his hand. As we are speaking, we don't know the prognosis, but he had to get an MRI, which is not good. That might mean he has torn ligaments. So we'll see there. If they're without Jared Allen for the playoffs, that's terrible. You know.
Okay, and do I have anything
And we don't
else?
have to talk about Cleveland. We don't have to talk about Cleveland because Cleveland already blew past theirs.
Cleveland already blew past theirs. And
Indiana's close. Indiana's very close.
Indiana needs to go 17-12.
That I don't know, man. Like the Indiana defense, there's only two like really good East teams that have just straight up bad defenses. The Knicks right now, who worry me, and the Pacers. So I don't know.
But the Pacers, they gotta probably play Charlotte again, play Chicago again, They probably gotta play all these bad teams again, which should be nice, easy victories, and they kind of just gotta go 500 against everybody else.
And Detroit's not. Detroit went way past. Detroit is going to make the playoffs.
Detroit is the nice feel-good story of the week. So, based on that, with our overs and unders, you picked Portland over, which was surprising.
Well, I just had a feeling that I thought 22.5 was too low at the time back in October. I was like, that just seems low, for a team that has Ayton and Simons. And what if Scoot Henderson has a good second year? And he didn't, here's the funny part. He was struggling the first half of this season. Now he's starting to play better. And I think that's helped them out a lot.
And then
that was a good guess. To be honest with you, that was a good guess.
And obviously we could not have predicted that after our predictions, Minnesota would implode. And
did you see that thing where Anthony Edwards was doing a video for somebody, maybe a fan, and he said, "We've had our downs this season." So even Anthony Edwards, who has played great all year to me, in my opinion, even he is kind of like, man, I don't know how well we're going to do this year. I think they'll bounce back. And Julius Randle's been hurt, and Dante DiVincenzo's been hurt. They've had to rely a lot on Naz Reid. I think they can make something of the season if they get to the play-in, but I think they'll do better next year. I do. I think they'll do better next year.
All right, and we got two more points. First, you took issue with Adam Silver's comments on Dallas and Luka.
Yeah, so he does his State of the League address all the time. It's usually twice in the year, during the All-Star break right before the game or the All-Star festivities, and right before the NBA Finals. And this time they asked, that was the very first question. He knew that was going to be the first question because that's all the league talked about for the last 2 or 3 weeks. For actually the sports world during this week of the Super Bowl. Let me let you sidebar this one. How many people really cared about the Super Bowl when the Luka Doncic trade happened in mainstream sports, Adam?
That was like
because half. Huh?
That's because the two teams and everybody had sort of mentioned, like, there was no, can Kansas City make it a three-peat? Nobody likes Philly outside of Philly, and nobody likes Kansas City outside of Kansas. It was two teams who were completely unsympathetic, and the fact that the game was a blowout, just everyone was like, good, we don't need to watch this, it's over.
And also sidebar to the sidebar, Superdome, New Orleans, fantastic place to host anything. That's why they're getting WrestleMania again. But that's besides the point. They asked Adam Silver about the topic of the season, which is why the fuck did the Dallas Mavericks trade Luka Doncic? And he gave an answer that on the surface sounds all legally straight, but I had issue with it. So he basically says, I was just a fan. I was surprised. I was blindsided. I was just a fan like everybody else watching it on Twitter and stuff like that. Here's my take on it, Adam. I think he actually didn't know that the trade was going down and that it was guarded from almost everybody in the league except for Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka, a friend of his, that this was going to happen. Here's where I take issue with him. He also talked a lot about how ratings have been sagging and that they're looking for reasons for the competition. He talked about how we have a competition committee. That was his excuse for saying, well, we're always looking for ways to improve the sport and make it more watchable, make the All-Star games and the playoff system more watchable, and blah, blah, blah. I understand that when David Stern vetoed the Chris Paul trade when the Hornets were partially owned by the NBA, so he was in a unique position to actually veto the trade. Here's where I take the issue with Silver. If he had as firm of a power grip over the league as his predecessor did, he would have actually done what Stern has done many times behind the scenes in stories that have been talked about in books and movies and stuff. He should have given those guys a call or John DuPont a call and said, hey, I heard this is happening. Please don't do this. It's a really bad idea. And I think if Stern was still running things, it wouldn't have happened. That's all.
It would have. Silver, what can he say? All he can say is, well, Dallas did.
That's what I'm trying to say. He said what he could say, but that's why I disliked it, because of the obliviousness of it. You get me?
But he can't say anything. He can't say, well, this has created the hugest, PR nightmare, self-inflicted wound in a long time, and the fact that Davis got injured immediately just was like, this is.
Yeah. The Lakers are playing the Babs in LA. I don't think Davis is going to play in it, and Luka's going to take it out on Dallas. He is.
Okay, I just thought, like, there's not much he can say. What do you know? Like, he's like, look, I'm not gonna go in and do this.
Maybe it's like from all the other situations, like the changing the rules on the COVID restrictions for positive tests, and then the Hong Kong deal, where it just seems like he just doesn't seem very bullish about his intentions. And I guess, and it's also because of his slim nature, he looks like Slender Man. I guess a lot of people just see him as kind of like a sneaky corporate weasel. And I can understand why people feel that way now, because with this trade, his reaction was just like, I didn't know nothing about this. And as a commissioner of the NBA, I just sometimes find that hard to believe. That's all. Breaking news: corporate overlords are sneaky assholes who lie all the time. Can you believe it? The other thing he said that really pissed me off is that we're looking at 10-minute quarters, to which I was like, all right, that's grounds for firing right there.
No, you just like, well, we're trying, what do you...
That is a terrible idea, Adam. Terrible.
But you just say we're exploring different ways to try to excite the game.
We'll explore something different.
Yeah, we'll look at it, and then
don't shrink every quarter by 2 minutes. No. Because what happens when we have a unicorn on every team in the NBA in 30 years because of the advancement of science and athletics?
You could say
we have teams that go in the 70s.
All you could say is we're just going to look at it. It doesn't mean anything other than, yeah, what do you, a 4-point line? Yeah, we can think about it. Oh, adding 6 fouls? Yeah, sure. Making the season longer and or shorter? Oh, we're looking at all options in which to improve the game. Mm-hmm. The fact 10-minute games are not going to happen, and nobody really wants it to happen. So you just, we're looking at it. Well, we looked at it. We decided it wasn't a good idea. MoveOn.org.
Sometimes I think maybe Adam is just speaking out loud. I think he's I think in terms of prosperity of the league, I mean, you can see by the new, you can see by the labor piece and by the new TV deal, he clearly knows what he's doing and he's very smart. I think he helped screw up the handling of the Time Warner Discovery divorce, which that was kind of put into prominence over the All-Star weekend because a lot of people felt like TNT kind of put themselves first in that All-Star thing, where they were like, this was a big FU to the league of like, oh, you want to sever ties with us? Okay, well, we're going to make this All-Star game all about the inside the NBA crew and screw the game. So I have to have a feeling that they're going to go back to the regular game when they go on NBC next year, but that's just a guess. I just think that the NBA is actually doing okay in terms of quality of play. Now that we're getting closer to the end of the regular season, things get more urgent. These trades have kicked in, and these teams are actually trying. There are some teams that worry me. I mean, the Knicks. I think the Knicks. Their problem for me is that when they're really good, but when they play the Cavaliers or the Celtics or the Thunder, they get boat raced. That's the problem for them.
All right. And finally, with which I should have brought this in earlier, with Wembenyama out, that changes really the defensive player of the year race.
I think he could still win it. I do.
No, he can't.
Oh, yes, he can. He led the league in blocks when the season ended.
I'm just gonna wait. Go
Are we
dig your grave.
Adam, are we going to do this again where we had this argument years ago about Embiid and Malcolm Brogdon, and you still stand by Malcolm Brogdon should have won a Rookie of the Year?
I'm just waiting for you. Just wait. I'm just waiting for you to end to let me end it for you.
Let me be fair. I haven't looked at the most recent ones. I would have to assume that Jaren Jackson Jr. is in the mix. I would have to assume maybe Dyson Daniels is in the mix. Who else am I missing?
Well, number one, Victor Wembenyama can't win because he's not going to have enough games to be eligible.
Wait a minute. No. The awards don't have those things. The honors, the team honors, dude. I don't think the awards do have incentives about playing minimum amount of games.
I believe they're all to be eligible for anything.
I hate to actually you, but like I might be wrong about that, and then we can come back to the next episode and you can correct me and have your laugh. But I think you can still win the award and have the least amount of be below the threshold of 70 games.
I believe the threshold is for everything.
Okay, then who else is there? Lou Dort and the Dort.
Then how was players ineligible for the MVP? Because they didn't get the games, they could win lesser awards, but the big MVP you're not eligible because you didn't have enough games. And there was the countdown that Embiid's not eligible to win anything because was missed so many games.
I wonder if that was an embargo by the writers because they just decided, okay, he hasn't played enough games. That race is getting interesting. It's a 2-horse race between Shea and Jokic. I think Shea is kind of like limping towards the lead, but I don't think Jokic is out of it.
Yeah, that's a 2-horse race. Rookie of the Year is a 20-person race.
Hello, where? I don't. Castle. Yeah, it's weird.
It could be you got Castle, you got Jalen Wells. I mean, Matas Buzelis is now starting, so he can put us strong.
Six-man's interesting to me because I think Peyton Pritchard might win it, but Amin Thompson and DeAndre Hunter on a new team both have cases too. So that's actually that's gonna be a tough one to call. MIP is Cade Cunningham. If it's not, something went wrong.
Which is a shame because Cade, that's why I'm against it, because he just took a natural progression of what everyone thought he should have done. I mean, Norman Powell kind of was the most improved this year. Should have been an all-star player had LeBron not Hollywooded everything.
Those are kind of fascinating to look at now. And also they've had to use these other guys now because Powell's got a knee injury, I think. But Kawhi Leonard's playing well. And Ben Simmons is actually contributing after being a buyout candidate. He's with the Clippers now, and he's actually playing well. So, the Clippers are kind of a fascinating team. Right now, they're right there with the Lakers record-wise, but they're just above the play-in. Like, do you think they can escape the play-in, Adam? That's the question for the Clips for the rest of the season.
The Clips have been
they're feisty.
They're feisty, and it appears they might have dodged a bullet with putting all their eggs into Paul George and him not really being healthy this year. And I quote, to be eligible for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player, all NBA teams and all defensive teams, players must play in at least 65 games with limited exceptions.
And he's played 59?
He's played like 40.
Okay, but you said limited exceptions. One of the limited exceptions is he's our big ratings getter, so we need to give him an award. How the fuck are you going to go to France and next year and be like, here is not Defensive Player of the Year Victor Wembenyama because Lou Dort got it instead? I'm like, how could you do that?
It'll be Jaren Jackson Jr., who will now be.
That's what I was trying to get you to answer, and you wouldn't answer the question. Who's going to get it other than him? Triple J? He doesn't even play defense anymore half the time.
Victor Wembenyama has played 46 games.
I'd still give it to him. Just like Joel Embiid when he was a rookie.
Not eligible.
Ugh. I don't know. But that'll be interesting on the prop bet scenario, like who can win it if Victor's out of the running. That's kind of interesting.
Victor is out of the right. Only in. It's still real to me. Only to you. All right. Do you have anything else, or are we good?
The media spectacle of the Lakers playing Dallas is going to be a fiasco. There's going to obviously be, people paying attention to the owner's box.
But I disagree. The fact that the entire Dallas roster is like injured.
They're playing their ass off. They are playing their ass off. Jason Kidd's got them playing. Kyrie Irving's playing well. PJ just came back. They're getting good play out of Max Christie. This is the Max Christie revenge game, Adam. Nobody knows it yet.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Anywho, so for Andrew Riche and his delusions, Wembenyama can still win. I'm Adam Murray. Have a good one.
Take care.